You can cha-cha-cha to this Mardi Gras. We're the dopest underground podcast you've heard thus far. And we do get better. The show gets wetter. Nobody gets hurt. As long as you let him and her do our thing with the lyrics and last swing. All the stuff we talking right are guaranteed delight. To the uptown maniacs, the crosstown maniacs, in full effect. Lyrics and lies are back. Lyrics and lies. Money Green. Shayz on the mic. It's a little MC life for y'all. That's my girl right there.
Anyway, I want to dig right into it, Money Green. I want to talk about Mr. DL Hughley. And actually, DL Hughley, he also did the Trumpet Awards. He was the MC of the night for the Trumpet Awards. And that kind of segued into two things. Him on the Trumpet Awards, it segued into him being on Uncensored, and it segued him to be on TV One's, he has his own show called the DL Hughley Show.
Mm-hmm.
And the DL Hughley Show is different than what I imagined. He's actually on the radio show. He actually has it set up like his radio show that he does on the radio. So now it's also brought to you on TV One at 11 p.m. at night. And they bring it back on again the next morning at 11 a.m. So if you missed it that night, you're able to see it on the next day.
All right.
And what interested me about DL Hughley is how he speaks his mind and how he talks. And I noticed that when he was on Kings of Comedy, they always let DL be the spokesman because of how he talks so elegantly. He's not that educated, as he will tell you, but he knows what he's talking about. He has done a lot of reading. He's done a lot of research when he speaks on the things that he says. And as a comedian, at the beginning, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't crazy about DL Hughley. I didn't think at the beginning he was that funny because he did a lot of talking about people, talking about them. But as I've seen him evolve into the man he is now, I think I respect him a little more because of what he talks about and how he thinks. He doesn't care about how you feel about him. He doesn't care if you don't like him, but he's going to say what's true to him from the heart, and that's what I like about him. So I guess over these past months, some other people has recognized DL Hughley because now he's on TV One, and he really got a chance to talk about who he was on Uncensored. I don't know if Money Green got a chance to see him on Uncensored. Did you, Money Green?
I've seen some of it.
You said a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he talks about his life. He talks about his wife, his family. That he worked hard to be where he is. No, he wasn't home all the time for his kids, but guess what? He did what he needed to do to make sure that they ate, they had a place to live, and the mother did the rest. Now, when he does his opening line about his show, he talks about certain people, and he actually puts his own self under the bus because he said the only people who would get married is two crazy people that get together and they ultimately, I guess, get married. And then he says, I guess I'll be on the couch tonight because he is that person who got married. He's been married to his wife, 23 years?
A long time.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm, something like that. 23
years, so he's been with her. And what he wanted to do is be a provider and a protector. So his first job was trying to be a police officer.
Probably longer than that.
It might have been longer than
that. Yeah, that's
96.
Yeah.
Maybe 30 something, because he was on Black Love too. So I think it was maybe in the 30s.
Yes.
Plus years. He talks about his kids, he talks about his son because his son has autism. So he talks about him terribly. But again, he's unfiltered. He said, I like the way he talks. I like the way he thinks. And I like that he makes it known if he doesn't agree with you, but when he doesn't agree, he also explains the reason why he doesn't agree with you and why he feels a certain way. He doesn't apologize for anything he says. Whatever he says it, and that's how he felt about it when he said it.
So you like DL now?
I I like DL.
You didn't like him much at first.
I did. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I wasn't crazy about that show he was on, the DL Hughley show.
God dang.
The sitcom. It was okay, and I guess it kind of portrayed his life because of how his stepfather took care of him, and he was his father. So he kind of portrayed that in that show. And I guess I wasn't crazy about the show.
My girl, Elise Neal.
Elise Neal was on it. And actually, they brought that show back. It comes on the weekend, and unfortunately, Sherry turns. I'm not crazy. I mean, there are some parts of the show that's funny. I do like the neighbors, and the kids have funny moments. But for the most part, I wasn't crazy about the show. Was you?
So, well, I watched it back then. You had, what's it? Overton from Living Single.
Yeah.
He was the neighbor, one of the neighbors.
He was his friend.
Right. So I definitely watched it, and I had a crush on Elise Neal back then. I actually bumped into her in South Beach.
Oh.
Very pretty woman. And I'm gonna leave that right there. However, he's always been one of my favorites. He's always been, especially since he came out, like we first started seeing him on Def Jam and what's that, Comic View.
And now he's on then he did the comic show. I'm talking about the one he just did with Cedric. He did it with...
that's the Comedy Get Down.
The Comedy Get Down.
But I'm talking about from day one, he was the host of Comic View, and he did Def Jam. And even prior to that, he was the host on Robin Harris's only CD or only album. And I didn't know that was him for the longest time until my cousin was like, you know that was the... I'm like, man, I didn't know that. But he came up under Robin Harris.
He mentioned that on his Uncensored.
Yes, at the Robin Harris, the club they were doing out in South Central, what have you. But he's always been one of my favorites, and definitely in my top 10. And so you went from Comic View and HBO Comedy Jam, for Def Comedy Jam, and then Kings of Comedy. So I just liked him and Bernie. I didn't like, Cedric's always been cool, but I always had DL above him because DL was intellectual. Yeah, so he could cut people up with the jokes and cut on what you have on and how you look and all that, and then he can get on some serious stuff and some intellectual stuff. And he was doing that before Chris Rock hit hard with it, or around the same time Chris Rock hit hard with it. So I think Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and DL Hughley are the only ones that really, or the main ones, the upper echelon of those that really get down with the cerebral and intellectual jokes and comedy or what have you, make you really think about things. So you and I have different perspectives from the get-go. So since I liked his comedy, I automatically watched his sitcom. It wasn't a must-see, but it was a sit down and support and check out us on TV.
Right.
I like that. I like that.
I like that too.
But
sit down and watch it.
And there were a lot of shows out at that time that I would definitely watch, from the Jamie Foxx show, the Wayans Brothers. You said DL Hughley show. I didn't watch Steve Harvey's show much, but I wasn't really big on his comedy. Right. Great host, but I wasn't big on his comedy. Him and Cedric doing their thing on that show. But that's a good show too. But so that's why my experience was different from yours. And then Kings of Comedy hit. That is elevated.
Deal for you.
Yeah, well, the deal was still when he told this dude that his beanie was so tight it looked like a Band-Aid. So when he said that, and then he started singing, what did he say? He sang the Band-Aid song. Oh, I laughed.
Stuck on Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Band-Aid stuck
He's
on.
like, I am stuck on, yeah. There's Band-Aid stuck on. Oh man, I was done when he was doing that.
Well, I guess, everybody sees people different depending on where you are in your own life. And I think at the time when DL Hughley first came out, and I remember him because, me and you were into that comedy and music and everything. I think I wasn't feeling him at the time. And once I got to see him more, like I seen him on the Comedy Get Down, and I seen him on the Kings of Comedy. And then I started seeing him on different things like Black Love, and then I seen him on Uncensored, and I started seeing him on certain political shows that he had, and then I started seeing him on certain controversial stuff that he didn't back down off of, and this is how he felt about it. It started opening my eyes to him as a, as an artist, as an activist, as all these different people that he started evolving to be. I started seeing DL in a different way. Sometimes we don't always appreciate the person's beginning, but later on, we start appreciating them later.
And that's cool. You don't have to.
That's cool.
And you don't have to nor appreciate everything about a person.
Right.
It's easy and understandable for you to say, I don't like any of his comedy, but I love his stand-up. I mean, not his stand-up. His political views. I like how he's a spokesman. I like how he attacks the Republicans, or how he stands up against Trump. Fox News. Yeah. It's easy to do that. I mean, you don't have to like everything about an artist.
I did look at his comedy that's on Netflix. He has a Netflix,
and that's
Netflix
cool.
special,
yeah,
and I appreciated that. And like I said, after I started getting to see him more and understanding who DL is as a person, as much as he reflected it on the media platform that I've seen him on, I've gotten to appreciate who he is now.
And I actually got to meet DL a couple of times.
Is he short?
He's not the tallest guy, but he's super cool.
Yeah.
He actually, I sit front row, and a lot of people are scared to sit front row because he's gonna crack jokes. I sat front and center, and my girlfriend and I back then, and homeboy from college and his girlfriend. But DL kept talking to us, and then he poured my boy a drink, and he asked me if I wanted some. But he used to carry a flask. Also, Butter and I went to see him in concert, and he talked to us. We were in the front row, and I took my grandmother to see him at the Improv and sat front row, and he asked us, like what was going on. He said, "What's going on with y'all two? What's this here?" Like we were dating something. And I told him, who we were. He said, "What?" And then he had a joke about her not looking like she's old enough to be a grandmother. And that joke was aimed at white people. He was talking about how bad white people age, using my grandmother as the basis of his joke. So DL is super cool, super intellectual, but he got real personal in that Uncensored.
Yeah, he did.
And also in his Breakfast Club interviews, but he talked about an affair he had, the son that woman bore, how that kid was murdered.
You get a chance to be a father to him.
Having affairs on his wife, and he talked about that. He got vulnerable and cried when he's talking about his father, who's actually his stepfather. Yeah. But he took over his father since he had him from so young. He took on the responsibility. And he never has even, I guess, looked for his real father, or whether he's living or I can't recall that. But that is so deep.
Yeah, it was. It was very
for you to get that vulnerable, because you catch me crying on TV, it better be something super deep. And I'm not like Shayz in my head. It's hard to make me cry. But you know what? I've softened in the past maybe 10 years. I think I've cried at least 4 or 5 times. And I don't mean real crying. I just mean you shed a tear or something because something hit you in the movie.
Emotional.
Well, yeah. Sometimes when someone achieves, like if I see a person with autism and they're running in the Special Olympics or something, and they reach that finish line and they're celebrating, that will touch me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, but like, oh, he made it, and he's all happy.
I think too, when you have a family, you have kids too, that kind of helps with softening you up a little bit.
I ain't softening nobody up. No, not over here. They ain't softening me up. Having a child ain't softening me up. But also, that make you mad. That make you more upset and more stern and firm.
Well, I think it gives you a perspective of different things happen with you.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Passion.
You're 100% right.
I'm not even saying passion, like patience.
Yeah, I was joking.
Patience are better. And your patience has been tested.
Your patience will be tested, but I'm a very patient person. But some people kids are just gonna bring out whatever you are, just like money. So, like they say when people hit the lottery and they go crazy. No, they were always crazy. Now they have the money to back up their crazy. So they say this person, he hit the lottery and he just went crazy and spent all his money on strippers and vacations. No, he always wanted to do that. He just didn't have the means to do it. And kids, if you have patience, when you get kids, you're probably going to be a patient parent. Yeah. If you don't have patience and you have a child, that kid's going to drive you crazy and you're going to try to throw something at him. But you know, I'm naturally patient. Hold on. And I used to be an elementary school teacher. And I actually taught 3 years of 9-year-olds, 8, 9-year-olds. And that's the age of my son now. So everything he's doing, I've seen it from 75 kids. So I know exactly where he is mentally, and I know how to try to persuade him or teach him how to do certain things. And I try to think back on which student was like him. Because out of 75 kids that I had his age, one of them has to be like him or a combination. And I can do that. I know a couple of kids act like him. Because anyway, I'm going to leave that alone.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because I remember you telling me about your times as a teacher and some of them kids.
Yeah.
But during the time that you was a teacher, you impacted a lot of kids.
You daggone right.
A lot of people can't say that because a lot of teachers don't have the time and patience to kind of understand who their students are and what it takes for certain kids.
Y'all hear that out there? Shayz on the mic just told y'all Money Green was an impact on the kids he taught. And DL Hughley is teaching people, so he's impacting us. You like that segue? You like that segue?
Yeah, I saw that. That was good.
Yeah, I'm smooth.
So
yeah, baby.
This attests to how long me and Money Green has known each other. Let me put over 20 years. We've known each other over 20 years, so we've known each other.
Right.
For a very, very, very
yeah, over 20.
And I'll say that
early in high school.
It's very rare that you still have high school friends for a long period of time. You have people in your lives that's there for a moment, a season, and a reason, but never over a certain amount of time.
So DL Hughley touched you.
DL Hughley has touched me, and I just want to give a shout out to hopefully that this show that he has on TV1, that it has a good run, and I hope he gets out of everything he wanted this show to be on TV1 for inspiration to other people, whatever he aspires to have from this TV show. I hope he gets. I mean, because I really respect him, I have to give it up.
Well, now, when you brought this topic up, when you in the pre-show, at a pre-show meeting, and when you said you wanted to talk about him, I thought you were going to go in on him and have some real harsh criticism. So I said, I don't even want to hear what you had to say in the meeting. Let's get right to it. So I'm surprised that you feel this way about him, but that's real cool. Like I say, he's one of my favorite comedians. He's like right now, living comedians, he's in my top probably 3. He's in my top 3 comedians. And that fluctuates because he was my favorite for a long time. Then it goes up and down when somebody releases a dope special. Chappelle releases a real good special, what have you. So that's my boy, DL. Currently top 3, always top 10. And I'm glad you like him. Uncensored. What's the show? The DL Hughley show?
DL Hughley show.
That's it, the late night show on TV1. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm definitely going to check that out. I've been watching it on YouTube. Notes from the GED section is what he calls his quick takes. So he may do a quick report, really getting on something for about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. He really gets into one particular topic and zeroes in on it and really turns it inside out. So notes from the GED section, and he has probably 100 of them on YouTube, and he's doing the radio. So I'm not sure if he's going to do them on this new show, or if he's going to add them.
I haven't seen him yet, but he does have little segments on there because he has his co-host who was Jasmine. I don't know her last name.
Now that's a fine woman.
And then his daughter is on here.
I ain't talking about his daughter.
I'm trying to tell you who's on his late night show.
Let's keep it on Jasmine.
Okay, and then he has his, what he calls his lesbian mixer.
Let's talk about Jasmine.
I don't want to talk about Jasmine.
But
this is about DL Hughley. Not DL Hughley with Jasmine.
That's Jasmine number 2. Now, the first one is always going to be Jasmine Sullivan. That's my baby. Now, I want to smell her. I want to Joe Biden her. I want to smell her hair.
Oh.
Jasmine, I want to do that little Eskimo kiss and do some other things, other things to you.
Uncensored.
So when to sit down and have you sing to me, I love some Jasmine Sullivan. Boy, that's her voice, that singing. I saw her in concert and she got that body into that blue dress.
Let's go back to the Jasmine we were talking about.
Oh my goodness. Oh, but DL's co-host, Jasmine Summers, what's her name?
I can't think of her last name. I know it's Jasmine.
Jasmine. Well, Jasmine she's a pretty thing too. That's a pretty woman. Jasmine is yeah, she's really nice to look at. And she's smart. So you have a smart, intelligent woman who is nice on the eyes, who really adds something special to the show. And I remember she was talking about how she was reluctant to partner with him because she thought he was a certain way. And then as soon as they met and she found out who he really was, she bought into him and bought into the show. So shout out to her.
Jasmine Sanders.
Shout out to Jasmine Sanders. Shout out to DL, all his endeavors. And anything else you want to share?
I think that's all. Shout out to, I want to piggyback on your shout out to DL and Jasmine Sanders because she brings up a lot of good information too as his co-host. I think he picked a good person to be his co-host on this show.
And shout out to all his tattoos. Shout out to his brim hats. He has some.
He got some nice hats.
He has some great interviews on Vlad TV. So DL has done a lot, and he's acted. Remember, he was in The Brothers and a few other movies. So he should have been in The Best Man. Nevertheless, that's it for Lyrics and Lies. We done broke down DL Hughley. This is probably our first spotlight on an artist and really getting into what that person does historically, their resume. And big ups to him. Lyrics and Lies, Money Green.
And your girl Shayz on the mic. And we are out.
You can catch me on Instagram at Between My Sheets.
Here we go. You know this is going to be a little something for me. But I'm a do it. Shayz with a Z _ on the mic. And make sure you put the underscores in between all the words. And we're out.